This one was kind of requested by Sue, actually. It's kind of a favourite. Okay, it's called the Coat Hanger Shortage. Nobody really knew why, but there was a coat hanger shortage. Maybe there was a strike somewhere or something. People started wishing they said yes when asked, would you like the hanger when buying a shirt? They actually knew at the time that they needed the hanger, but it seemed like a silly thing to admit that owning the coat hanger was almost as important as owning the shirt or blouse. The thing they were paying for. Yes, I like the hanger. In fact, I need the hanger. I'm always short of coat hangers. Now, they really needed them. Coat hangers had never been the sort of items people bought as separate items. Now, people couldn't get enough of them. People had always known where you could get them. Apparently, they just give them away in charity shops, but still, till now, you wouldn't just go to the shop and say, can I have some coat hangers, please? You knew a mate who was going to buy charity Christmas cards, so you asked them, could you get some coat hangers while you're there? But of course, they forgot. You'd seen some nice new ones in IKEA, not exactly expensive, but come on, would you have paid for coat hangers? Now though, it got to the stage where you were secretly carrying a bag of them out from your parents' house, which you found in the loft, while looking for something else, and your mum's stopping you, can I just have a couple of those? You offer 4, and she says, I only need a couple. Well okay, I'll have 3. That's how desperate people have become for coat hangers these days. Okay, one more from this book. And this is a very, very short one. This one is a favourite of a friend of mine, John Brooks, whose book I've also published. This one's called Ring Pull. I need it in front of me to remember it. So it's called Ring Pull. We stood around in a circle and tried to attract women. That's Ring Pull. Okay. Anyway, moving on from that. As I said, there's a section in this book on sport. And there's also a section on the new book on some of the women in my life. It's quite a short section. Anyway, I'm going to bypass a couple of them. Like I said, I was just going to say, with John's book, which I put out, which is called The Dresden Cantata, we kept getting questions, why is it called The Dresden Cantata? There's no real reason, it's just there's a poem in there called The Dresden Cantata. It's pretty much as simple as that. And this book is called Departure Lounge 58, and a fairly simple reason is that there's a poem called Departure Lounge 58 in it, which I'm not going to read because I'm not even not that much of a fan of the poem itself, really, but quite like the title. But anyway. So, and also, originally, well, it's dedicated to Simba, who's a cat, and she's somebody who's sort of in my life called Karen, is her cat. When I sent it to the original printers, it was dedicated to Karen and Simba, but we had yet another argument, so I've changed it back to just Simba, and I don't know what Karen's going to think of that if I see it again, but no, actually it was partly because somebody recently, he was reading from a book, and he said it was dedicated to a woman that who was no longer in his life, so, you know, he kind of regretted that, so I took his advice in a way. But anyway, right, so skipping past the one about Karen, I'm going to read this one, which is called She Was Like Jim Bowen. After I told her I didn't think we were suited to each other, we stayed in touch, and she still came round sometimes, but now she wouldn't let me near her. She was like Jim Bowen on Bullseye, except without the northern working class accent saying, look at what you could have won. Okay, and next to that, there's a poem called He Was Like Microsoft Paint, which is not about a man in my life, or anyone in my life, it's just a sort of made-up poem really, but because he was like Microsoft Paint. While all the other Microsoft programs and applications, and most other programs like iTunes, etc., get regular updates and makeovers, Microsoft Paint, the most basic of drawing packages, never did. And he was just the same, refusing to reform, sticking to his Discman, still buying vinyl, still claiming to have just got into some god-awful band. Like Paint, he preferred to make things difficult for himself. At least he could sell flip, rotate, stretch, skew, and invert colours. Okay. I haven't got that many left in this section. I've sort of. It was originally going to be all in one section, so I've had to readjust it slightly. Okay, I'll do a couple more. I wasn't sure about doing this one. This one's called Ghost Story. People always laugh when I say I once got a great blowjob off a ghost. There can be no other account for what happened, no one else in the bed, but a definite sensation resulting in orgasm, as I recall, as I lay, importantly, awake, and arms by my side at a friend of a friend's in Tottenham who I'd stayed with when going up to a cup game there. Whether this friend of a friend in another room and then a 33-year-old Christian virgin somehow had something to do with it, I don't know. Okay, and actually, I'm going to... She was in another room. It was a ghost. I promise you, it was a ghost. All right, it's the true story. Okay, I'm going to nip back because there was one I was going to read in the first section. Okay, there's one or two poems in here which are kind of serialised. I've got Way Out Part 1 and Way Out Part 2. I meant to read Way Out Part 1 in the first half, so I might as well go back and do that now. There's also Sad Part 5 in here, and I'm afraid Sad Parts 1 to 4 aren't featured in this book, so they're in other books. So if you want to get, you'd have to read the other books for the rest of the Sad series. Okay, but I'll read Way Out Part 1. And this was originally it was called Way Out Part 2, because I put it earlier in the book, I've changed the title. Okay. Some things stay the same, some things are never the same. Some records sound the same as other classic records, some records never sound the same. Some guys at parties dance the same way as other guys at parties. Some put on a disguise, are never the same guys the first time. Manny's bass lines were not the same as Peter Hook's bass lines, or the bass line to Elephant Stone may have been based on a New Order bass line, which although might not be a strictly original idea, especially given that New Order bass lines themselves are pretty samey, might have ensured future international success. There's a sort of Stone Roses theme running through this book as well. I am a bit of an obsessed, well I was, but okay, Way Out Part 2, which is the very last poem, and this has got a theme of flying, vastly inferior to I think all of the poems that were read this evening. It's just a short, simple one. It's called Way Out Part 2. High up in the clouds with peanuts and spirits, way above global warming and terrorism, us with our cards, girls at the back with their oggy oggy oggy, all full of fun. Because I don't know, I enjoy I quite enjoy the flight out on a holiday, you know, just wherever you're going, you know. Okay, all right, and I was going to finish with that one, but I might as well do the one that the slam that Sue and I were in. This is the one I did in the final. I completely cocked it up actually in the final and allowed Sue to win. Okay, right. This one is called Fail. It started on YouTube, badly filmed amateur footage of people falling over and making fools of themselves. Old people slipping in the rain, young people tripping on the stairs, actors tripping over their lines, stoneheads tripping so much they couldn't walk or talk. In the background, you could hear people pissing themselves. Uncontrollable, moronic laughter, difficult to understand sometimes, perhaps you ought to have been there. But besides, it became like failing to see the funny side was somehow funny. The origins of it all were obvious, of course. You've Been Framed, which paid £200 per fail, touted on TV and similar clip shows. YouTube turned it global, so cheap and easy, anyone could do it. Trip, film, catch, post up a clip, simple as, bish bash bosh, job done, another failure in the eyes of society. PR men started seeing the marketable value. Celebrities, business, government wanted in. David Beckham filmed himself tripping over a football. David Blunkett filmed himself. The fail fashion was taking force. Failing markets was a big trend. All the city boys competing to be the worst. Sometimes simply failing to show up for work. Failing to understand women was the new way of flirting. There were worries when God got in the act, as crops failed everywhere. Starving millions didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Philosophers were confused. If failing was the best thing, then didn't that mean success was the ultimate failure, and so succeeding must be best after all? Well, in the end, they never bothered finishing their papers, just buggered off down the pub. And as for poets, well, they just couldn't give it. Alright, thanks very much. Cheers.